I'm back. How are you? I'm Bernie Miklasz, and this is the Bernie Show. You know that already, but it's the Bernie Show on Sports Hub STL, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I want to focus on the Cardinals bullpen again today, but this time I want to specifically get into the Ryan Helsley situation and how the closer is being used or not used, and why this is causing problems on multiple fronts. So I have a lot to get into today, but I'm going to try to lay it all out for you so you can kind of see the points I'm trying to make. So let's all, get into this, shall we? More than anything, I fear that the way Helsley is being used is affecting his performance, and it's not in a good way. The Cardinals have lost 15 times this season, and in a lot of those setbacks, the offense has come up short in the late innings, where they score a little early, then they kind of stall out. We saw that happen in Atlanta on Wednesday. When the Cardinals lose a game, we often see this combination too many times. We just see it too many times because it's happened on multiple occasions. Number one, the offense gets slowed down or shut down late in the ball game. And then number two, the other possibility that we've seen, or probability, I should say, a shaky bullpen, a really shaky bullpen suffers another implosion. And how are you going to win close games when your offense gets bogged down and can't score late or not score much late? And your bullpen cannot be trusted because, among other reasons, Oli Marmol, the manager, will not bring Ryan Helsley into a game unless it is a traditional save situation. So those two trends are working against the Cardinals, and it's understandable why they are 0-5 in one-run games. And it really does just come down to this. Ryan Helsley isn't pitching much, and that's a problem on multiple fronts. As I said a moment ago, his workload, and listen, I love you all. Nobody has to tell me it's early. I know it's early. That's the whole baseball thing that drives me kind of nuts. Everybody wants to say it's early. It's early. It's okay. Yeah, it's early. But as the great Yogi Berra once said, one of my favorite quotes or observations from him, when one of his teams was off to a bad start, and there were some problems and things just weren't settling into place. And Yogi said, "It's getting late early." Yeah, I mean, it's never too early to recognize a problem and try to do something about it, right? And Ryan Helsley's workload has really decreased the season so far compared to 2024 at a similar stage. Last season, in the first 25 games played by the Cardinals, Helsley had 12 appearances and 7 saves in those 25 games. This season, he's only pitched 8 times in the first 25 games, and he has just 3 saves. But the issue is actually more about the number of save opportunities, because that in effect absolutely determines how often Helsley will be used. So in the first 25 games last season, he had 8 save opportunities in the Cardinals' first 25 last season. All right. This season, in the first 25, he's had only 4 save opportunities, only half as many as he had at the same point in the schedule a year ago. The 2025 Cardinals, as I'm talking about before, and I'm just going to bring it up again, just to reinforce my point. The 2025 Cardinals are struggling to get late leads, and they're struggling to carry them to Helsley in the ninth. And because Marmol has this policy about using Helsley only 1 inning, only in a save opportunity, there's a lot of bad stuff happening that goes along with that. Every now and then, Marmol will relent and utilize Helsley in extra innings. As you remember, he did that in that final game of the Pittsburgh series back on April the 9th. Helsley appeared. He walked on to handle the 9th inning and got out of it. The Pirates didn't score, and that game eventually went 13 innings. And the Cardinals lost 2-1. It was one of the most frustrating losses of the season. And it was kind of one of those little tipping point losses that sticks with you a little bit. And the other thing is, like every manager, Marmol will look for a spot to use his closer if the closer has been sitting and sitting and sitting in the bullpen, waiting and waiting and waiting several days for the next save opportunity to surface. And that's why, Helsley walked on in the ninth inning the other night in Atlanta when the Cardinals had a 10-4 lead. He needed to work because when he doesn't pitch and he sits and he sits and he waits, when he does pitch, he loses sharpness. He loses effectiveness. And this is the kind of thing, it just, pardon me. I know I seem dramatic. It's the kind of thing that just drives me nuts just watching this. So you won't use the guy. I'll get into this more later, but you won't use the guy in the seventh or the eighth inning when you have a really good chance to keep that game right there and save it right there before you bring in a lousy reliever who's going to give up the home run anyway. But then you'll use him in a blowout because you haven't used him enough and he needs work. Does anybody see this kind of circle of madness? I don't think I'm the only one who sees that. Anyway, so a combination of three factors has kept Helsley from pitching much less than anticipated. The St. Louis, I've already talked about this, but St. Louis offense can't add runs late in games, or they struggle to. A contingent of relievers cannot be trusted, and they fail to set him up for saves. And a manager has the very strict, this is my policy rules about using Ryan Helsley. I just wanted to recap that. So what has this created? It's created a lot of gaps in between his pitching performances, or appearances, I should say. Since the 1st of April through Wednesday's loss in Atlanta, the Cardinals played 21 games, and Helsley had only 3 save opportunities. He also worked that extra innings game in Pittsburgh. It wasn't a save opportunity, but it was a good time to use him. It wasn't Helsley's fault that the Cardinals couldn't score a run. So this month, Helsley has had a meaningful presence in only 4 of 21 games. I mean, and if you're going to wait for the save opportunity to come to him, the way this thing's going, you're going to be waiting and waiting a lot. And that means you're not using one of the best relievers in baseball when your bullpen stinks, but you're not getting your best guy, or one of your best guys, and certainly was the best closer in the National League last year. You're not getting him involved in games. You're letting the games be just ripped out of your hands, and you get yourself stomped because the other relievers stink and, can't get the game to Helsley. It's again, circle of madness, circle of cuckoo. All right, let's catalog it, because I believe in being thorough, and I'm glad that some of you enjoy that. Others of you don't, but you can always hit that thing to speed up the playback, right? Or speed up the whatever. And you can also listen on podcast version. I always forget to promote that, sportshubstl.com. When you go to the Bernie Hub there and click that on, you'll see an option to listen to the podcast of these videos. And that's good for if you have more time, you're out on a walk, you're taking the dog out for a walk, whatever it may be, or you're just kicking back on your couch and you don't necessarily want to watch my ugly face. I get it. But you might want to listen to me run my mouth. Okay, so you try the podcast. Anyway, I just want to get that plug in there. And didn't mean to waste more of your time. All right, let's catalog what I'm talking about. Helsley pitched an inning on April 1st. He did not pitch again until 5 days later in Boston. And you know what happened? You'll remember it. So 5 days later, he finally gets in a game, and all that sitting in the bullpen caused Helsley to lose his sharpness and his control, which explains why he walked 4 Red Sox hitters in the 9th inning to blow a save in a game the Cardinals lost 5-4. All right. He sat for 2 more days after that, which isn't that's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad. But he sat for 2 more days before pitching on April 9th in that extra innings game in Pittsburgh. Then he pitched 2 days later. It was a good spot. It was the right spot. The Phillies were in town April 16th. It was a Friday night, and Helsley saved a 2-0 win to open the series. That's great. But after that, my friends, Helsley didn't pitch again until 5 days later. He closed out the 4-1 win over the Astros. I believe that was the third game and final game of the series at Busch Stadium. Okay. So he had 5 days off before that appearance. Then, believe it or not, there's another 5-game absence that followed that one appearance. So 5 days off, one appearance, then another 5 days off. He didn't pitch at all. Oh my gosh. He didn't pitch at all in the 4-game set, the disaster at Citi Field in New York against the Mets. And he didn't appear in the first game against the Braves, but he did pitch in a blowout because the rust was accumulating. Marmol, had an idea. Boy, I probably want to get him a little work. Yeah. But he picked the time of a 10-4 blowout victory to do it. Not that was wrong. That's not the point, though. The point is they keep bypassing opportunities to use him in games that are still on the line. So think about this. Think about this now. Marmol would not use Helsley Friday night at Citi Field when the Cardinals were in a tie game and had a chance to beat the Mets. But he didn't bring him in because he must put him in reserve until there's a save situation. The policy. So Marmol instead brought Ryan Fernandez into the tie game, and 3 pitches later, boom, second deck, Francisco Lindor walk-off. All right. So maybe you're thinking, I know I'm thinking, I try to be fair to Marmol. I know I'm thinking, well, he probably learned a lesson there. You think? I think he probably might rethink this the next time. No, he did not. 5 days later in Atlanta, Marmol did it again. Tie game, late in the afternoon, 8th inning, got a decision to make. He could go with Helsley. Hey, all right, let's get through this and then, live to fight another inning. Or he could have used the rookie call-up, Matt Swanson, who I don't know why the hell they brought him up if he ain't going to pitch. What's the point? You don't have depth, which means you got to use guys. So, and Helsley was another option, but of course he went with Ryan Fernandez again, but not an identical situation, but very close to it. Another tie game where one bad pitch can pretty much knock you out. And this time it wasn't Lindor, but it was someone named Eli White who crushed a hanging slider for a 3-run game-winning homer off Fernandez. And at this point, I actually feel bad for Hernandez because he really needs to be in Memphis getting right. And the manager keeps putting him in these spots where, the dude's slider has gone bad. His confidence has gone bad. It's almost cruel to just keep him, and not only keep him in the majors, but to put him in these spots to get embarrassed. And, it's not good for a young pitcher's mental health to have these blowups, and basically 2 massive blowups in a span of 5 days. So to recap, Marmol wouldn't use him in the in the tie game at New York. Use Fernandez. Bye-bye. He wouldn't use him in the tie game Wednesday in Atlanta, late. Brought in Fernandez. Bye-bye. Brought in Fernandez both times. Helsley sitting. But Helsley did pitch in a non-threatening situation when the Cardinals were when they were leading the Braves 10-4 in the 9th. This makes me want to holler. You know what I'm saying? During this recent stretch of baseball, Helsley pitched only 3 times in 14 days, and that includes only 1 appearance in the last 7 days, and that 1 appearance was in a blowout after the game had already been decided. No, I'm not done talking. I just had to kind of let that settle in my own thick skull for a minute. So this is bad. When Helsley does pitch, his performance is affected by all these layoffs, and I have some questions about that, and I can back it up with stats. But first, I would appreciate if you listen as I turn my attention to DraftKings, which sponsors the Bernie Show. Baseball season is in full swing, and it's time for you to step up to the plate and take your full swings with the DraftKings Pick Six game. Think of DraftKings Pick Six as a center cut fastball right down the middle. Jump on it. It's the easiest way to score and cash in on a big win. You just select the way it works, general easy thing. You select two or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a particular stat. Example, you're looking at the hitters. Which guys give you the best opportunity to get 2 or more hits in the game coming up? Or are you looking for hitters that have very little chance, you think, you've determined, to get to 2 hits? They'll finish with 1 hit or no hits, right? See, test your knowledge, and it can pay off for you. Pick Six is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings easy-to-use app and use the code STL Sports. That's important. The code is STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Go for it. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. Back to Ryan Helsley and his disturbingly low activity season. You know, he was so busy last year, but Marmol used him responsibly. Marmol absolutely used him responsibly. He didn't use him gratuitously. He didn't try to push it too much. But now Oli is going too far the other way. He's being overly protective of Helsley. And some of you might think, and I understand why you say, well, maybe he's being overly protective because maybe they're going to want to trade him, so they're going to keep him healthy. But I got a different take on that. I'll get to this later. Trust me. He was really busy in 2024. Ryan Helsley had 55 save opportunities and converted 49 of them, major league high, 49 saves. His 92% save rate was the best by a regular National League closer and the second best overall to Cleveland's closer. But this year he's had, as I mentioned, he's had only 4 save opportunities in his first 3+ weeks, and he's converted 3. He's way, way behind last season's pace. And more than that, by, not pitching when it matters, not pitching in real games. I'm not talking about side sessions. All of the rust that's kind of forming on Helsley is making him a less effective pitcher, and that's a problem. I'll give you a few things here. His ERA was 2.72 last year. It's 3.29 so far this season. Helsley's best season in terms of ERA was in 2022, 2.02. So you see the ERA keeps going up. It's 3.29 this year. Sure, it can go down, but not if they're going to keep using them like this and letting the rust form even deeper. His walk rate, Ryan Helsley's walk rate this season is a startling 22%. Last year, it was 8.6%. His strikeout rate, which hit a career 39% in 2022, is down to 27.8% this year. And his current strikeout walk ratio would be his worst in a season. Helsley's whip swing rate, fancy way of saying swing and miss rate, 38% in 2022, 36% last year, and now it's dropped to 33% so far this season. Pardon the fancy pants stats, but this will just give you a general idea. I like Statcast. I believe in the stuff that they have. Boy, they have everything covered. So Statcast measures pitchers' effectiveness by just something called pitching run value. In 2022, Helsley ranked in the top 9% of all pitchers, starters, relievers. Top 9% in pitching run value. He slipped a little in 2024. He ranked among the top 12% in pitching run value. This year, he's in the top 43%. So you go from the top 9%, the top 12%. Now this year, it's top 43%. Going the wrong way. This trend is kind of gone the wrong way. So his pitching run value is a major decrease from where he was in 2022 and 24. On top of that, Helsley's fastball value is down this year. His breaking pitch value, his slider, is in the top 21% of all big league pitchers, which sounds really good, except you stop and look and see that he was in the top 2% last year. So, my friends, the point I'm trying to make, and to back up my opinion, his pitches are not as sharp this year because he's not pitching enough. You don't want to pitch him too much, but it's also kind of harmful to the pitcher if you don't pitch him enough. His stuff goes flat. He doesn't control it as much. And again, look, I know it's early and all that, but the trends aren't encouraging. That's all I'm trying to say. And with all the problems the Cardinals are having in getting, him into save situations, enough of them, this situation that he's in now may drag on and on, unless, of course, Marmol loosens his policy of using Helsley almost exclusively in save situations. Now I have another idea. It'll be the final segment of the Bernie Show, but I want you to think about, and I want you to think about what I'm going to say when I get to the final segment. But first, I like this. This is a big deal. I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to the show, our friends at BlueChew. Listen, I welcome the opportunity to speak about BlueChew because I know how it is when you get a certain age. Sometimes you need some help. I'm not ashamed to say that. I don't know why any man should be ashamed to think that or say that. I know how age can affect your body in certain ways. So my fellow men, especially those of you around my age, and I'm 66, please listen up. I want to tell you about BlueChew, and I'm happy to do it because there's no reason to be bashful about an issue that brings so many men down and can lead to, you're depressed, you don't feel good about yourself, whatever. There's no need for that. BlueChew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced intimacy. BlueChew is the ultimate leadoff hitter in your lineup when it's, let's call it game time. And it's time to turn your attention away from sports and focus on your significant others. Guys, I say this with 100% unabashed, 100% encouragement. Make sure you're ready when it's time to perform, and BlueChew offers additional help by giving you the first month of BlueChew free. A home run kind of night is just a few clicks away, and it's so easy to do. And again, don't be shy. It's okay. This is so easy. You just sign up at BlueChew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers. Once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew tablets are made in the USA. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office. No trying to get an appointment. No awkward conversations. No waiting in line at the pharmacy. No, BlueChew makes it incredibly easy for you. You just order online, and then you're all set to increase your horsepower with BlueChew. It's as simple as that. Trust good old Uncle Bernie here when I tell you this. There's nothing more attractive to your partner than confidence, and BlueChew can help give you that confidence where it counts. Make life easier by increasing your pleasure and discovering your options at BlueChew.com. And again, we got a special deal for our listeners and our watchers. Try your first month of BlueChew free when you use the promo code Bernie. That's $5 shipping. That's it. Use the promo code Bernie for a free first month and just $5 in shipping. Promo code Bernie. So visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring the Bernie Show. And I'm happy to give my fellow men some advice. All right, now here is my final segment on Ryan Helsley. All of this sitting around is working against him, and it could eventually, this is my concern, it could eventually undermine his trade value should the Cardinals put him on the market, which is something the front office should have done this past offseason. Because if you're not going to put a good bullpen around your closer, and you're giving up leads late in the game, or you're in tie games and they won so many tie games late last year because they had so many guys, good pitchers available in relief. So what is the point of having a deluxe elite closer when the setup people in front of him, really struggle, not all of them, but struggle to do the job, which makes the save opportunity obsolete? So what the heck is John Mozeliak doing? Oh, we got to keep our closer. Well, I know he's thinking, well, you can trade him before the deadline and all this other stuff. Maybe he'll increase his value. Hey, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll be a contender. No, I don't think that's going to work out. Should have put him on the market this past offseason to see what was going to, maybe what he would fetch in a trade. But they were so arrogant and so convinced they had this surprise team, even though it didn't have a bullpen around the closer, except for Kyle Leahy and Phil Maton. They wouldn't even entertain trade offers for him. It's not only arrogant, it's so hopelessly delusional. I raised hell about it all off season. What is the point of holding onto a closer that does not get enough opportunities to close games and win games for your team? What is the point of holding on to a closer and keeping him out there in the bullpen shed so many nights with very limited save opportunities when he's approaching free agency and he gets closer to it every day and it's coming after the season and he will walk? With such a chaotic and problematic bullpen, the Cardinals have a remote chance to contend for a playoff spot. And I'm being polite when I say that. But actual contenders, yeah, there's some of them peoples are going to be shopping for a good closer. And President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak, see, I'm using the former title out of respect, the formal title. Sign of respect. Anyway, he can't screw this up worse than he has already. The more help, we know it already because we've seen it this season, and the evidence is open and shut. The evidence is just, forget about it. It's obvious evidence. The more Ryan Helsley sits, the more he rusts, and the more the cobwebs form. And I'm being dramatic, but I'm using some metaphors. And, if they keep sitting him 5-6 days at a time, Ryan Helsley going to have barnacles on him. He's going to go home and Mrs. Helsley can say, what is all that on you? Well, I'll be damned. It looks like barnacles are growing. Anyway, enough of my weak attempts at humor. The more Helsley sits, he rusts, and we see the results in his key statistics. They're all declining. The decline is absolutely reversible because he still has live stuff, but not if the Cardinals do a stupid thing and stay with this policy of using him very selectively. Other teams are looking at Helsley's relative inactivity. I have a friend who works in front office for another team. He says, "What's going on?" He texted me the other day. So what's going on here? Is there something wrong with him? Are they trying to conceal an injury and they're being real careful? No, it's not that. They just have a bad policy and they have a bad president of baseball operations. Anyway, but they're wondering, because there's been a slight drop in velo this year, especially to where he was in 2022. So they are wondering, is everything okay with him physically? There isn't anything wrong with him physically, but the injury risk, here's the deal. It will increase. Only will increase if he sits around too much and then has to come into a game without his best stuff. My gosh, my friends, you have to remember there have been so many times where, you can't run a relief pitcher into the ground to a point of exhaustion where he's vulnerable, but you also can't not use him where he's going to be more vulnerable when he comes into the game anyway. Because when and I've seen this so many times, I talked to Tony La Russa about it so many times, even Whitey Herzog about it so many times. When a closer doesn't have his best stuff, and people who think, oh, see, he's rested up. The rest part can be overdone because, as Whitey told me, La Russa told me, when a closer doesn't have his best stuff, or any reliever that you really count on doesn't have his best stuff, they start overthrowing. They start pushing too hard. They're grinding. Ah, man, I don't have my fastball. Oh man, my slider's it's not there tonight. And so it becomes this high intensity inning. It becomes like this pitch to pitch, just the intensity level, the grinding level goes up. And that actually can lead to a physical issue and physical questions. And that could lead to teams going, whoa, when they were thinking previously about making a good offer for Ryan Helsley. Do you think I'm just kidding here, or I'm wasting your time with some fake hot take? I'm not doing that. I don't do that at all. I'm coming to you straight. Here's the final set of numbers I'm going to give you. I see a closer who has faced 25 batters in his last 5 appearances. Ryan Helsley, 25 batters his last 5 appearances. He has struck out only 4 of the 25 hitters. That is a 16% strikeout rate. Here's a guy that hangs around 30% most of the time and has even gone to about 36, 37%. So in his last 5 appearances, because his stuff is so weak, he's only struck out 16%, 4 of them, 16% of the 25. That is very, very unlike Helsley. And perhaps even worse, do you know what his walk rate is over the last 5 appearances where he has encountered 25 batters? He's walked 8 of them. That is a walk rate of 32%. His strikeout rate is 16%. His walk rate is double that, 32%. And I think maybe a couple of you are saying, well, Bernie, you're just doing the hot cake thing. No, I'm not. These numbers jump out at me. I don't feel like I'm being irresponsible in not talking about it. Helsley shouldn't be sitting in amber. He shouldn't be sitting with cobwebs draped over him. He shouldn't be like a scarecrow out there where the other team looks and says, oh, Helsley's in the bullpen. Watch out. He's not a scarecrow. He's a pitcher. He's a damn good pitcher. He's got to absolutely pitch. Even before it's the 9th inning. A lot of times, as we say, the chance to save the game can come in the 7th or the 8th inning. Marmol has to adjust. You can leave your top closer out of the bullpen shed. You got to get him out of the bullpen shed, as I said. I meant to say. And you can't have him doing nothing, sitting out there, probably engaging in some kind of trivia game, maybe TV show trivia or something with the other relievers, as your team's losing another game and he's losing more sharpness. Listen, between Oli Marmol's stubborn and restrictive policy and John Mozeliak's utter and hopeless incompetence, pardon my sarcasm, but gee, I wonder what could possibly go wrong where the Cardinals would mess up a chance to cash in Ryan Helsley. Let them keep fooling around. Let them keep thinking we're the smartest people in baseball. I repeat, gee, what could possibly go wrong? It never ends with this increasingly goofy organization. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our friends at DraftKings and BlueChew. We'll be back tomorrow, and I won't talk about the bullpen on The Bernie Show. Thank you so much, as always.